You guys know I review everything I can on Netflix, and a brand new superhero film dropped on the platform yesterday. Let's talk about it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Minnal Murali dropped on Netflix yesterday. And of course, it's the holidays, so I was with family, but I got some time to finally watch the film. I want to talk about it thanks to you guys for dropping me direct messages and leaving comments saying, Austin, you have to watch this film. Finally got around to it, and let's do it. So our main character, who is a tailor from a village, obtains superpowers, including enhanced speed, agility, reflexes, and strength after being hit by a bolt of lightning, and becomes Minnal Murali. And this story follows him exploring his said powers and how it leads to a clash between he and someone else who falls into the exact same situation. And this story is showcasing both of these characters, kind of their consecutive rise and fall, drastically different character types, but almost the exact same situation. All comes down to how can you handle it? And we see a beautiful example of how circumstances and just personality type can lead someone to become a superhero or a supervillain. And a very familiar type of story. We've seen countless superhero movies this year and, of course, years prior, but the execution here, and obviously, coming from India, very different filmmaking styles at play, it brings a different spark and flair to a story like this, which I can really appreciate. And even though the story itself, as conventional as this type of plot is, the execution here makes it far more interesting than I expected at the beginning, because it's a lot of buildup, but that buildup becomes integral down the line, and about halfway through the movie, once you realize kind of the paths these two characters are on, you're like, oh my goodness, that's why we spent so much time here, and with this character, and this relationship. And at the beginning, both of these individuals, they're very similar in a way that makes them both likable and unlikable at the same time. And everyone around them, the town, kind of sees them in a similar light. But as it progresses and we have conversations, a couple that will make you chuckle and giggling maybe even more than you anticipate. The character of Jason, he gets himself into so many situations that are just fun, but it's all there purposefully, which I can really appreciate and respect. And so we see kind of everything leading into this storm that comes, and everything's aligning perfectly for this lightning to strike that hits both of these individuals. And thus, they start to get superpowers. And we see some really cool things at play, from super strength to telekinesis to super hearing. And, you know, you get a little mix of like Superman and Patrick Stewart's Professor Xavier and all of these things coming together, but it's just two people. So how are they going to handle this, both on a physical level, but the importance comes from, I believe, even more so on a mental level as the movie progresses, because you see how this starts to take shape in one of our characters' minds, and that leads him down a path. And then the other character, the trajectory is almost the exact opposite. And even with this somewhat lengthy buildup, I do believe some of the scenes could have been cut down. A 2-hour and 30-minute runtime. I was still invested and engaged because the style of the movie, whether that be the cinematography, the effects are good. One or two moments where I'm like, okay, but for the most part, they're good. And there are some things about the way it's presented to us on screen, what the shot selection, the cinematography is doing for the moment, and it almost reminds me of the early 2000s Hulk film when they went for a very distinct style, but they did it all throughout the movie, and it kind of just, okay, I don't love the fact that they committed to that so hard. This film, it will do things like that, but it doesn't fully commit. It does it every now and then, which makes it feel more special. And that's another case of restraint with this film that I can truly appreciate, whether that be showing us something too quick or giving us the origin story and showing us the superpowers immediately. No. This movie constantly shows restraint because it opts to keep these things from us and give us more dialogue and build up, which some will be like, okay, I'm not really caring about at this moment, but I, for one, appreciate that because it makes for a more compelling story in the third act once we get that payoff. Solid action scenes, especially in the third act, a nice light touch of humor, some moments when they're trying to give CPR to Santa Claus, and if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I find things like that funny, and those moments really worked for me. The movie's also not afraid to get really dark, and I mean a lot darker than anticipated, especially after kind of the lightness of the middle portion of the film. Starts dark, gets lighter, and it gets darker again, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm surprised with how this is going. Even down to the outfits, and more specifically the masks that our characters are wearing before they don their superhero-ish outfits. There's one that just looks so creepy and like, yeah, it's kind of freaking me out, and I like that. I like getting that feeling while watching, and overall, this movie, I mean, you have to get accustomed to the pacing, and again, I think that was my biggest issue, just kind of the flow of the film, and get past the fact that we've seen pretty much all of these concepts before. You look at the message of it, it's like straight out of Marvel and DC. The realism of it, it's a lot better than the newer Fantastic Four movie, but that grounded realism for something so fantastical. And then I look at another film, funny enough, the same writer, Chronicle, which handled that much better. So I think that would be the better comparison for this movie specifically, because you get something that feels almost like it's really happening in front of you. And overall, for what this movie was going for, super solid. Appreciate you guys for the recommendations. My score is a 72%. I enjoy a good superhero story, and this movie, it feels different. Even though the concepts are similar, I like the experience that I got from it. So I want to pose the question, what is your favorite superhero movie of the year? Even though this one does not come from Hollywood, so the feel and the style is very different, but it's really cool, especially what Netflix is doing, bringing us shows and movies from around the world. I reviewed The Silent Sea earlier today, and this, of course, my second video on Christmas. So if you're celebrating Christmas or just the holidays, happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Stay tuned because my top movies of the year, those videos are coming out starting tomorrow. I'll see you later.